felt that understanding the reptilian history of humans is to understand so much about human behavior. Because the oldest part of the human brain is what they call the R complex in mainstream science, or the reptilian brain. And it is fundamentally influencing our behavior. This is mainstream science, from the reptilian brain, the R complex, we get cold-blooded behavior, no empathy with the consequences for others of our actions, territoriality, control, wanting to own and control everything, desire to control, an obsession with hierarchical structures of power, top-down control by the few, aggression, might is right, winner takes all. These things all come from the reptilian brain. And I have just described perfectly the behavior of these hybrid bloodlines that we call the Illuminati. That's why they can kill and pepper bomb whole cities of civilians, because they have no empathy with the victims and the consequences for them of their actions. You take empathy out, anything goes. The other thing with the reptilian brain, this is really important in terms of understanding how they control us, is this is where, in the R complex, we get our survival instincts from, fight or flight. And it's great that we have these survival programs, because otherwise we wouldn't last long. It's keeping us alive in this reality constantly, the survival mechanisms. But if you get caught in survival as a state of being rather than a response to a danger, then you are locking yourself into the reptilian brain, which is the genetics and the vibrational structure that these guys completely understand for obvious reasons. And if you look at society, from cradle to grave, we are constantly being given reasons to fear not surviving. Oh, the credit crunch, oh, the rising food prices, oh, the war in Iraq, oh, would Iran do a nuclear bomb, oh, this stuff, oh, what about the kids, oh my God. And all those feelings of fear, i.e. survival reactions, lock us into the reptilian brain, which is what they want us to do, because then basically we become to an extent a hive brain with them. This is another important area to understand many things that I'm going to come through here. They're energy vampires. They vampire human energy of a certain kind, and therefore we are manipulated to produce that energy, which they then absorb. It's their power source. It's their source of energetic power. They operate just outside of visible light, but when we project emotional energy, stress, fear, anger, hatred, you can't see that appear in front of you when you feel those emotions, because they're not operating with invisible light. They're operating just outside of visible light, at other levels of frequency. And so when we are feeling those emotions and generating that energy resulting from them, they are pouring out of us into these other levels of reality, which is where these entities operate, and they absorb that energy. This lady, Giuliana Conforto, is a trained astrophysicist who wrote this book and many others about the nature of reality through the scientific perspective, but with an open mind, right brain perspective. And she talked to me, I had a long chat with her once for many hours. She talked to me about the existence of interspace planes. If you take this here to be the physical world we're in, and this to be the next dimension, she said there are neutral zones between these dimensions, which she said, if you operate there, you're going to need to find yourself an energy source, because there ain't one there. I rang Credo Mutwa, and I said to him what she said to me. I said, is there anything in your culture that talks about the same thing? Oh yes, he said, we call them the heaven between heavens. He said, and that's where the reptilians are, or the Chitahuri as he calls them. So here we have the physical world, which, well, quote, that we live in. Here is the non-physical world, and then you have this neutral zone. This is where they operate from, and vibrationally it's really, really close to visible light, and they are absorbing energy from our emotional output into these realms. And I found this in the War Memorial in Canberra, Australia, in the area of the Tomb of the Unknown Warrior. And when you look at who's paid for this war memoriam, it's like a who's who of the Australian Illuminati. And they have these very strange pictures around the thing of soldiers with this energy coming out of them, and just above it are these reptilian entities almost guarding this. And in many ways that's so symbolic of what we're looking at, feeding off that energy. This is another Neil Haig picture of going across these interspace planes and becoming connected without that interference coming from this level. So what we're looking at, it seems, is these entities operate in these interspace planes. They possess the bloodlines within five-sense reality. We are manipulated into the positions of power, and they sit atop these various pyramids with the people. So these guys start wars and stuff like that, which the rest of us fight. We're stupid enough to. And although there appears to be fighting at this level between countries and leaders, really they all answer to the same crew. They're all controlled by the same crew. This is the movie playing out of different people, and they do fight among each other. They bloody do. Anyone who's obsessed with power like that wants power over their associates, but they're connected and operating to the same basic agenda. And if they do get out of hand, well, someone much more powerful knocks their heads together. So like I say, these entities, they can't absorb any energy. They have to absorb energy that is within the frequency range that they're operating on. And they're operating on such a low band of reality and vibration that they can only absorb low vibrational energy, which we give them through low vibrational emotional output, hate, fear, stress, all these things. And there's a guy in Japan, Mr. Emoto, I spent a long weekend with last year, talked to him about all this stuff, and saw him again recently. He's the man that developed this process of freezing water and then photographing the water crystals, which appear for a short time. And so by making different words and vibrational frequencies, by connecting it to the water, like putting words of hate or love on the side of the tank, then freezing it and then photographing it, he's been able to see the different effects of these different emotions upon reality. And this is a water crystal that was from a tank that had the words of love and appreciation on it. This is one that had the words hate all over it. It's a very different energetic structure, and it's this one that these entities want to absorb, therefore what they want us to produce. This again is the love and appreciation. This is a water crystal that had where the tank of water or the receptacle of water had a mobile phone tied to it. So what they want to do, and what they've been doing for centuries, is turning humanity into a war on itself to produce the stress, the hatred, the anger, all these emotions, which then feed into this interspace plane. And of course a war, like the two wars of the 20th century, my God, the energy of that kind that was produced then. I also almost fell off my seat when I watched this Disney movie called Monsters, Inc. Disney being one of these Illuminati corporations, as so many of the others are, most of them are anyway, perhaps all, could be, probably is. And